The rain hammered against the metal roof of the communications bunker like bullets from heaven. Inside, 22-year-old tech specialist Maria Vasquez sat hunched over a radio console that looked like it had been through 3 wars and lost every one. Wires hung loose like broken veins, circuit boards were cracked, and the main antenna connection sparked every few seconds with angry blue light. Before we dive in, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode is truly mind-blowing. Let's get started. It was 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday that felt like it would never end. The forward operating base in eastern Afghanistan was supposed to be a temporary stop, but temporary had turned into 6 months of dust, heat, and equipment that broke faster than anyone could fix it. Maria had been assigned here straight out of technical school, and every day felt like a test she wasn't sure she was passing. The radio crackled to life with static, then died again. Maria sighed and reached for her toolkit. This was the 5th time tonight the long-range communications had failed, and without it, the base was blind and deaf to the outside world. No contact with command, no intel updates, and most importantly, no way to call for backup if things went bad. She had been working on radios since she was 16, learning from her father who had served 2 tours in Iraq. But this equipment was older than she was, held together with military-grade duct tape and prayers. The other techs had given up on it weeks ago, saying it was beyond repair and they needed to wait for new equipment that might never come. But Maria couldn't give up. Not when she knew that SEAL Team 7 was supposed to arrive tomorrow for a high-priority mission that everyone was whispering about, but no one was supposed to know the details of. Without communications, that mission would be dead before it started. She pulled out the radio's main board and examined it under her flashlight. The problem was deeper than she thought. The entire frequency modulator was fried, and the backup systems had been cannibalized for parts months ago. According to the manual, this radio was officially dead. But Maria had learned a long time ago that manuals didn't know everything. Working by feel and instinct, she began rewiring the damaged circuits. Her fingers moved quickly in the dim light, connecting components that were never meant to work together. She bypassed the fried modulator entirely and rerouted the signal through the emergency beacon's transmitter. It was like performing surgery with a butter knife. But slowly, impossibly, the radio began to show signs of life. At 4:32 a.m., she heard voices through the static, faint but real. Maria held her breath and fine-tuned the frequency. The voices grew clearer. It was working. By sunrise, she had restored not just basic communications, but had somehow boosted the signal strength beyond the radio's original specifications. The base could now reach command headquarters directly instead of having to route through 3 relay stations. It was like turning a broken bicycle into a sports car. The first person to notice was Sergeant Mike Collins, the overnight watch commander. He came into the communications bunker at 6:15 a.m. expecting to file another equipment failure report, and instead heard crystal-clear chatter from 3 different command centers. "Vasquez, what did you do?" he asked, staring at the console that had been declared hopeless just 12 hours earlier. "I fixed it," Maria said simply, though she was still amazed herself. "Should hold for a few weeks, maybe longer if we're lucky." Word spread quickly through the base. By noon, Maria had been called to the command tent where Lieutenant Colonel James Patterson, the base commander, was waiting with a mix of relief and disbelief on his weathered face. "Specialist Vasquez, I've been told you accomplished something my engineering staff said was impossible," he said. "Care to explain how?" Maria explained her modifications in simple terms, avoiding the technical jargon that would have made most officers' eyes glaze over. She showed him her sketches of the rewired circuits and pointed out where she had bypassed damaged components. The colonel listened with growing amazement. "And you're confident this will hold?" he asked. "Yes, sir. The signal is actually stronger now than when the radio was new. We can reach anyone anywhere without relay stations." That afternoon, SEAL Team 7 arrived as scheduled. Their helicopters touched down in clouds of dust and noise, disgorging 12 of the most professional warriors Maria had ever seen. Their leader, Lieutenant Jake Morrison, was a compact man with steel-gray eyes who moved with the precise economy of someone who had survived dozens of dangerous missions. The SEALs were briefed on their mission in the secure tent, but Maria caught enough whispered conversations to understand the basics. There was a high-value target in the mountains, someone important enough that Washington was willing to risk a SEAL team to capture him. The mission required perfect coordination with multiple support units, air cover, and extraction teams. Any communication failure could mean death for everyone involved. Lieutenant Morrison came to the communications bunker at 7:20 p.m. to test the equipment personally. Maria watched nervously as he ran through connection protocols with various command centers, checking signal strength and clarity. She had worked too hard on that radio to have it fail now. But it performed flawlessly. Crystal clear communications with everyone from local air support to Pentagon briefing rooms. Morrison looked genuinely impressed, which for a SEAL was like receiving a standing ovation. "This is excellent work, Specialist," he said. "Better than anything we had at our last 3 bases." "Thank you, sir. It should handle whatever you need." The SEAL team departed at 0200 hours for their mission. Maria monitored communications from the bunker, listening to the coded chatter as the team moved through hostile territory toward their target. The radio worked perfectly, maintaining contact even as the SEALs moved through mountain valleys that usually blocked all signals. The mission was a success. By dawn, the team had captured their target and was moving to the extraction point, but then everything went wrong. Enemy forces had surrounded the extraction zone. The helicopters couldn't land, and the SEALs were pinned down with wounded team members and a valuable prisoner they couldn't abandon. They needed immediate air support, medical evacuation, and additional ground forces, all coordinated perfectly or everyone would die. The problem was that the rescue required simultaneous communication with 7 different units spread across Afghanistan and into Pakistan. Air Force jets, Army medevac helicopters, Marine ground units, Special Operations Command, Pakistani military liaisons to ensure no international incidents, CIA handlers for the prisoner, and Pentagon command staff who were monitoring everything in real time. The base's secondary radio systems couldn't handle that many simultaneous connections. The frequencies would interfere with each other, creating dangerous communications gaps. Under normal circumstances, they would have to prioritize some communications over others, accepting that some coordination would be lost. People would die because of communication failures. But Maria's repaired radio was not normal. She had unknowingly created something unique when she bypassed the damaged modulator. The radio could now handle multiple simultaneous transmissions across different frequency bands without interference. It was like having 7 radios in one. Maria worked frantically to establish connections with all the required units. Her fingers flew across the control panels, adjusting frequencies and routing signals through her jury-rigged system. One by one, she brought each unit online until all 7 were connected in a complex communications network. Air Force jets coordinated their attack runs with ground forces. Medevac helicopters received exact coordinates for the wounded. Marine units positioned themselves to block enemy reinforcement routes. The CIA coordinated prisoner transfer protocols, while the Pentagon monitored everything, and Pakistani liaisons ensured no military units crossed international borders accidentally. It was like conducting a symphony of violence and rescue, with Maria as the conductor and her impossible radio as the instrument. For 6 hours, she maintained perfect communications between all units as the rescue unfolded. Not once did the signal fail or degrade. The SEALs were extracted successfully with their prisoner and wounded team members. Enemy forces were neutralized without international incident. It was textbook special operations, the kind of mission that would be studied in military academies for years. But none of it would have been possible without communications that everyone had said couldn't work. When Lieutenant Morrison returned to base the next evening, he went straight to the communications bunker. Maria was there, as always, maintaining her radio and monitoring routine traffic. She looked up when the SEAL officer entered, expecting a routine debriefing request. Instead, Morrison came to attention and saluted her. Maria was so shocked she nearly dropped her coffee. Enlisted personnel didn't get saluted by officers, especially not by SEAL team leaders who had just completed impossible missions. She stammered and started to return the salute, but Morrison had already lowered his hand. "Specialist Vasquez," he said formally, "what you accomplished with that radio saved 12 American lives yesterday, including mine. Your work made an impossible mission possible. I wanted you to know that." Word of Morrison's salute spread through the base within hours. By the next morning, it had reached regimental headquarters. By the following week, it was part of SEAL Team 7's official after-action report. Within a month, Maria received orders for immediate promotion to Staff Sergeant and assignment to Special Operations Communications School. But the story didn't end there. The Pentagon wanted to understand how a 22-year-old tech specialist had created a communications capability that their best engineers said was impossible. Maria was flown to Washington, D.C. for extensive debriefing with military technology experts. They examined her modifications, studied her circuit diagrams, and tested her theories. What they discovered amazed them. Maria had intuitively solved several complex engineering problems that had stumped teams of experts. Her bypass of the damaged frequency modulator had accidentally created a new type of signal processing system. Her rerouting through the emergency beacons transmitter had established multiple isolated frequency channels. Her improvised antenna modifications had boosted both transmission and reception capabilities. She had essentially invented a new type of military radio while trying to fix a broken one. The Department of Defense fast-tracked Maria through officer training and assigned her to their Advanced Communications Research Division. Her accidental innovations became the basis for next-generation battlefield communication systems. Equipment based on her designs was deployed to special operations units worldwide. But Maria never forgot the night she spent in that dusty bunker in Afghanistan, working by flashlight to repair what everyone said couldn't be fixed. She kept a photo of that old radio on her desk throughout her career, a reminder that sometimes the impossible just takes a little longer. Years later, when she was Colonel Maria Vasquez, Director of Military Communications Development, she would tell young engineers that the best innovations often come from people who don't know something is supposed to be impossible. She would speak about the importance of persistence, creativity, and the willingness to try solutions that exist outside the manual. And she would always remember Lieutenant Jake Morrison's salute, the moment when a hardened special operations warrior recognized that sometimes the most important battles are fought not with weapons, but with determination and a soldering iron. The radio that started it all was eventually retired to the Smithsonian Institution, where it sits in the National Museum of American History with a simple placard that reads, "Emergency Communications Repair, Afghanistan 2018. Specialist Maria Vasquez, U.S. Army." Visitors who stop to read about it rarely understand that they're looking at the device that launched a revolution in military communications and proved that sometimes the impossible is just another word for untried. The SEAL team members who were saved by Maria's work went on to serve with distinction in operations around the world. But Jake Morrison, now retired as a full colonel, makes sure that every new SEAL class hears the story of the young Army tech who proved that heroes don't always carry guns. Sometimes they carry toolkits, and sometimes the most important battles are won in quiet bunkers at 3:17 in the morning by people who refuse to accept that something can't be done.